Press the wrong button. All right, folks, we are live. Let me know if you are hearing me clearly. I'm going to give our beautiful Discord members the YouTube chat here. Make sure the audio is coming through nice and clear for me. That would be great. Thank you kindly. All right, welcome, welcome. I'm going to make sure I share this with our community. So we're going to be debunking Trump supporters all day long and the things that they might believe that are absolutely incorrect and fully falsified and, yeah, otherwise known as debunked. Here. The idea here is to disqualify and eliminate disinformation, misinformation, and there is a ton of it coming from Trump and his supporters. Still a lot of the same bullshit being spouted, especially when we do these live streams. You see a lot of it in the comment section. Join us live. Boom. All right. Check one. Check. Everything nice and clear? All right, everyone. When you get into the room, please smash the like button. I'm going to do a bit of reading here, as I always like to do. Why didn't that work? We'll fix that. All right. Here are a bunch of falsehoods that continue to be believed by many Trump supporters. And I'm going to be going through the YouTube comment section and responding directly there. So if you have a comment, if you want to say something in response to what I'm saying, use the YouTube chat. So here we go. The big lie. 2020 election fraud. The key false claims. Dominion voting machines. Trump alleged that Dominion voting systems manipulated votes in favor of Biden. The claim has been debunked through multiple lawsuits and investigations. People are still throwing around the Dominion voting machines bullshit. So hopefully we can clear that up today. Dead people voting. Investigations found only a handful of isolated cases of deceased individuals' votes being cast, none of which were sufficient to affect the election outcome. So we're talking a handful of votes. There were even moments where it was said by Trump and his supporters that there were thousands of these. That's never been substantiated. Ballot harvesting and illegal votes. Courts found no credible evidence of widespread ballot harvesting or illegal voting that could have influenced the election results. Suitcases of ballots. Claims about secret suitcases of ballots being counted have been debunked as misrepresentations of standard ballot processing procedures. You see someone with a suitcase around the ballot box, and people draw their own conspiracies and do their own conspiratorial line drawing. Impact. January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Trump's false claims about election fraud contributed to the events of January 6th in 2021. Pressures on state officials. Trump and his allies pressured state officials to overturn election results based on unfounded fraud claims. Restrictive voting laws. These falsehoods have fueled the enactment of restrictive voting laws in several Republican-led states. And this information is coming from factchecker.org, PBS NewsHour, CNN, AP News and AP News and a few other sources. And I will be getting back to your guys's everyone's comments here. So leave your comments. I'm going to be going through all of them, and I'll be giving you my responses. So drop your comments, smash that like button. But I'm going to be debunking you Trump supporters all day long. I'm going to be here all day long. I'm here to put in the work, and and the reason why I'm framing it like that, debunking, because there needs to be widespread debunking done. It's not getting through a lot of people's heads that your mind has been filled with shit by your current commander in chief and his I don't know what I call them, disciples. Smash that like button. We're gonna get into it. As you know, I will have some lighthearted digs today, like the one I just did, but understand that it's all lighthearted. I truly do want to engage in a helpful, good faith way with you guys, but sometimes kidding around, being lighthearted about this is fine, right? You're going to have your digs towards me. I'll have my digs towards you. But let's try to get to the truth, shall we, today? Foreign policy falsehoods, key false claims. Russia and Ukraine. Trump claimed that Russia would not have invaded Ukraine if he were in office. However, experts note that Russia's aggressive posture towards Ukraine was evident during Trump's term, and his actions, such as withholding military aid, may have emboldened Russia. Hamas and Israel. Trump asserted that Hamas would... imagine being that arrogant, by the way, that this country would not have invaded Ukraine simply if Trump was sitting there in the Oval Office, sitting there on the throne. That is peak arrogance, right? Does anyone disagree with that? Let's deal with just that, because we are going to be talking a lot about Trump's character today. Let me know in the YouTube comment section. Do you think that's an arrogant stance? Just right off the bat, give me your assessment. I hopefully we can get his hardcore supporters, the people who would die on their sword for him, die on their epistemological sword for him. At least they can say that's arrogant of Trump to say that, because there's no good reason to believe that, right? We should at least be able to say that. You don't have to say he's a fucking twat for saying that or whatever. Just admit that is arrogant, please. Hamas and Israel. Trump asserted that Hamas would not have attacked Israel under his leadership. This claim lacks evidence, as the factors leading to such conflicts are complex and long-standing. Does any Trump supporter believe that? Does anyone out there believe that Hamas would not have carried out this terrorist, brutal attack on October 7th if Trump was in the office? Does anyone believe that? Let me know. North Korea denuclearization. Trump claimed success in denuclearizing North Korea, but the country continued its nuclear program despite his meetings with Kim Jong-un. So, there nothing there, but that is still something people are saying as like one of the great things that Donald Trump... I could be wrong about this, but I think Jordan Peterson might have spread that rumor as well. I could be wrong about that, but it just, off the top of my head, I feel like I saw something around those lines of like the amazing feats he made with Kim Jong-un and with regards to denuclearization. I'm going to check that though. Yeah, I can't find the public statement. Therefore, based on... So yeah, I'll retract that. I can't put that on, Jordan. Let's go. All right. Cool. Let's continue here. Social issue misinformation. So Trump frequently promotes fear-based narratives about social issues. Democrats want to execute babies after birth. Does anyone believe that? Does anyone believe that Democrats want to execute babies after birth? Anyone in the room on YouTube? Tell us where you're getting this information and we'll look into it. Again, everyone on YouTube, please tell me if you believe that Democrats want to execute babies after birth. Hello? Who believes this? So the reality here is that no state in the U.S. has passed a law allowing executing babies after birth. This is a distortion of late-term abortion laws, which apply only to cases where the fetus is not viable or the mother's life is at risk. So, yeah, easy to debunk that one. Schools are secretly forcing kids into gender transitions. We've all heard this one, right? That the Democrats or the left-leaning schools are secretly forcing kids into gender transitions. Ooh. Reality. Schools do not perform medical procedures. Trump falsely claims that schools are allowing children to undergo gender reassignment without parental consent. So that's a crock of shit. Right? Anyone believe that? Anyone? Hello? I hope, and by the way, I hope Trump supporters show up today to this stream. And like look at this. This might be the depth. I'm going to get to the chat. Don't start bitching already. I will get there. So, Chinano, you say beta. What is a beta? I'm going to actually, as tedious as it may seem to some people, I am going to actually try and work through these terms that get thrown around all the time. So like beta, what do you think a beta is? And we'll see if I actually fit the criteria. Biden will ban gas stoves and cars. Reality. No federal law exists banning gas stoves or gasoline-powered cars. Regulations encourage but do not mandate cleaner alternatives. Right? Have you guys heard this one? Biden or the Democrats will ban gas stoves and cars. And then Trump's crowd cheers behind him. Or they go, no, we don't want that. Does anyone out there believe that? I got a few more bullet points to read, and then I'm going to respond to your comments. So don't get your panties in a twist, whatever your name was on YouTube. What color are your panties, Shenano? Tell me. Oh my God, they're canceling me. Smash that like button. We got a bunch of you in the room. We're going to be debunking Trump supporters all day. And you guys in the comment section can help me with this. At Pangburn, it's all about good faith, helpful discourse. So we're going to poke fun at each other. That's well within my virtue that I uphold of lightheartedness. We can do this in a lighthearted way. Don't have to get too triggered. But yeah, let's try to keep this as good faith and helpful as we can. 4, conspiracy theories and cultural narratives. Trump has promoted several conspiracy theories that have been debunked but remain widely believed by his base. The, quote, great replacement theory is happening. Oh no! Reality. The white nationalist conspiracy theory claims that Democrats are deliberately encouraging immigration to, quote, replace white voters. While immigration policies fluctuate, there is no orchestrated effort to change the racial demographics of the electorate. This is honestly on like a Hitler level conspiracy, right? The Great Replacement. The white nationalist conspiracy theory claims that Democrats are deliberately encouraging immigration to replace the whites. Yeah. Nope. No evidence of that. Does anyone out there believe this? Are you going to cite like an increase in multiculturalism in our country? Oh no! Haitians in Ohio are stealing and eating people's pets. Oh, that sounds terrifying. Didn't he say this during the debate? Like he was on stage yapping about this? The reality is there is no evidence for this claim, which originated from social media and was amplified by Trump. So talking about people amplifying crocs of shit, we're going to do a Elon Musk debunking episode next, where we're going to take a look at his social media behavior. So make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure you drop a like on this stream so you don't miss it. But we're going to be going through the details. This isn't just going to be like left-wing rhetoric that like just goes over people's head and no one believes. We're actually going to deal with the information. We're going to read. I know no one likes reading nowadays, but we're going to do some reading, okay? So deal with it. Okay, here we go again. Phoenix Blitz, you're one hilarious snowflake. Can you please tell me in the YouTube comments section what a snowflake is? And we'll see if I'm in fact a snowflake by your standard. And maybe I am by your standard. Economic misinformation. And then I got 3 more points here, and then I will respond to your guys' comments. Economic misinformation. Trump often exaggerates or distorts economic data to claim his presidency was uniquely successful. I had the greatest economy in history. I had the greatest economy. How many of you have heard this one, right? The U.S. economy was strong before COVID-19. Here's the reality. The U.S. economy was strong before COVID-19, but its growth was comparable to the Obama years. GDP growth was similar, and job creation slowed under Trump compared to Obama's second term. So, yeah, what exactly is meant by the greatest? But everything with Trump is like the greatest, the best, the shiniest, the largest. You know, I have the biggest hands, like all of this kind of crap. There is no middle ground. It's like black and white. And look, I know I'm not, no one should ever say that Trump is Hitler or anything close to Hitler. But there are similarities, like the black and white thinking. We were talking about this yesterday. It's like with Hitler, it was either righteous or disgusting. There was no middle ground. Either righteous in his mind or disgusting. So if it wasn't righteous, if it didn't fit into Hitler's narrow-minded sight of the world or reality and his normativity, then it was disgusting. It disgusted him. So it's like this kind of black and white thinking is not a good way of thinking, and it shows you that a person really isn't seeing the full spectrum of issues, because most people watching the stream are going to understand that like the human rationality spectrum, there's all of these different things that can be rationalized to and reasoned with, and there can be a multitude of different answers, good answers to an issue. But if someone is saying that, like, you know, this is the righteous answer, all the rest is disgusting or disgusts me or is just wrong, that's the mark of a very bad thinker. And I think Donald Trump is just a terrible, terrible, terrible thinker. There's a bunch of you in the room right now. Make sure you smash that like button so you don't miss another stream. Probably for the next 4 years, I'm going to be still debunking Trump misinformation. So you better strap in for it. The claim Biden's economy is the worst in history. Reality, inflation has been a challenge post-COVID, but job growth and stock market performance have been strong under Biden. Not the worst economy in history. Again, easily debunked. The U.S. was energy independent under me. That's another claim of his, and this one came up during the last live stream as well that we did. The U.S., the reality is the U.S. remained a net exporter of energy under both Trump and Biden. Immigration falsehoods. Now, immigration's the big issue right now, and everyone's on fire about this, and for good reason, and we'll talk more about that today. But Trump has built much of his platform on false narratives about immigration. The border is completely open under Biden. This is what he was claiming about Biden. And this is also the argument many people I know who were like reluctantly going to cast a vote for Trump, saying that this was the issue. That it's just, there's no control. It's completely open under Biden. Anything's welcome. The reality is, while illegal crossings have increased, Biden has maintained many Trump-era policies, including Title 42 expulsions. So it's almost like Trump is calling his own policies open border policies. So, I mean, yeah, what, please explain to me in the comment section what exactly you mean by that. And everyone, this is the time, please be detailed. Don't just say, because it's obvious, because Biden's corrupt when responding to what I just said about the open border issue. Get detailed. Let's expand our thinking. Let's upgrade our software. Even if you don't go away from this stream today, denouncing Trump or whatever, at least you will be able to defend your positions reasonably and rationally. Mexico paid for the wall. Does anyone out there think that Mexico paid for the wall? Anything to do with the wall? The reality is U.S. taxpayers, not Mexico, funded the border wall. COVID-19 and health misinformation. Trump's rhetoric about COVID-19 and vaccines has led to confusion and distrust in public health. COVID-19 will just disappear. Do you guys remember him saying that? This was a common one. This is still, you wouldn't believe how many anti-vaxxer Trumpers there are that are still saying this stuff. See, COVID-19 just disappeared. Did it? The reality, the virus did not disappear and cause millions of deaths worldwide. That's the reality. You can live in conspiracy world and think that that's all false misinformation. But if you rely on correspondence criteria of truth to inform your epistemological framework, the way that you come to know things, then you can't believe that and be an honest person. You can't believe that COVID-19 just disappeared and that COVID-19 didn't cause millions of deaths, which it did. Injecting bleach could help cure COVID-19. This was a disastrous statement that medical professionals had to correct, right? There were even some idiots that went as far as to, do this, unfortunately. And, and Trump and people who were spouting crap like this, like using home cleaner and stuff like that, they are to blame for that. And people who are just like, no, he was just spitballing, talking out loud. You're in the most powerful position with a following that would literally do nearly anything you tell them to do. And you say stuff like that, on live television. Ridiculous and disgusting to me. The vaccines are dangerous, but I should get credit for them. This was believe it or not, Trump talking points. So Trump has taken credit for Operation Warp Speed, but later fueled anti-vaccine sentiment when politically convenient. So why these falsehoods persist? Why does this keep going? Why do people keep believing this garbage? Echo chambers, big one. Conservative media outlets like Fox News, Newsmax, and OANN amplify these claims. Why do they amplify these claims? They don't even necessarily have to believe these claims, but they make money and create audiences. Echo chambers are very lucrative things to create because they tend to attract people who are just desperate to want to have their belief confirmed and find people who they can feel like they're in a community where they're constantly getting this confirmation, affirmation of their beliefs. And this is why, our Pangburn community here, if you come onto our Discord server, we have conservatives, we have liberals, we have atheists, Christians, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists. You should try to immerse yourself in communities. If you like talking politics, if you like talking philosophy and science, immerse yourself in communities where you find great levels of disagreement. Now, that can feel taxing, but that's why at Pangburn we have the good faith helpfulness rule, where however you engage, however much you disagree, however passionately, whatever the topic, you must engage in good faith, which means by our standard, being sincere with your intentions. So if you enter a conversation and you're wanting to have a good conversation, be sincere with that. If you're wanting to just like pwn atheists, be sincere with that right up front. I'm here to pwn atheists. Then people can engage with you or not. And then the second part is helpfulness. And you should all know what helpfulness looks like. We started learning this in kindergarten. You should have learned it. You should have had helpfulness mastered by the time you graduated high school and continued on becoming more helpful, hopefully. But in the dialectic, an example I like to use is that you reach your hand out and you help your interlocutor to give you the strongest form of their argument, as opposed to if your interlocutor's struggling to deliver the strongest form of their argument, kind of pounce on that and try to make it so they can't find their argument and then pound them to the ground and destroy them, kind of like debate bro style. That's not what we do at Pangburn. I'm going to be going through your comments. I promise, really quick. Take a little second to smash that like button. I'll be right there. Trump's rhetoric is another reason why these falsehoods persist. Repeating falsehoods makes them seem true, though through the illusory truth effect. So there's this illusory truth effect that if you keep repeating things enough, and there's enough people around you that keep repeating things, all of a sudden, if someone from the outside of this echo chamber comes in and says like, whoa, wait a second, you believe that? And then the whole group like laughs at you. It's like, this is common knowledge, man. It's like self-evident. Like, what are you talking about? And everyone's laughing. It's like, they're all laughing because it's so absurd to them that their position could be wrong because they're in this echo chamber, because Trump's rhetoric is being repeated. So if you repeat these falsehoods over and over and over again, it just seems like someone coming up to you and being like, what? You think snow's white? No. Snow is bright blue. Like, this is common knowledge. It's like, no, man, look at the ground. The snow is white. Distrust of mainstream institutions. So Trump has painted fact checkers, scientists, and the media as bias against him. So this is another reason. It's like, distrust these people who can easily demonstrate my claims to be false. This is something cult leaders do. Right? This is why a lot of people will claim about the Trump movement, the Trumpers, Trump supporters, why these guys are cult captured for things like this. It's like a cult leader, a successful cult leader, one of the first things they'll do is they will warn you about all of these people who are going to try to say that they're wrong and what they're going to say about you being wrong, the details about it, because a good cult leader will learn those details and they'll tell their followers, so that when their followers hear a scientist be like, no, not bleach, or no, ivermectin is not the answer here, and these are the reasons. Then the cult leader will, or the cult follower will be like, he told me you would say that, and then they feel like Trump or whoever the cult leader is has some kind of like almost like superpower connection to information so that they can even predict that these guys are going to say this, and his prediction came true. Wow. So, preying on gullibility. Identity politics. Many of his supporters align with his messaging emotionally, even if evidence contradicts it. So basically, if you have normative standards, and normative, when we're talking about normativity in philosophy, we're talking about our own subjective ideas of right, wrong, good, bad, what we think the norm should be, normative. And, if Trump's saying something that they agree with the what Trump is trying to promote, sometimes people will just adopt and keep peddling that misinformation if they think it's actually going to be a good, strong line to getting the end result. So, the end justifying the means, even if the means are just, lies. So yeah, this is a breakdown of some of the stuff I'm still hearing. Yeah. And so I'm scrolling up. We're going to go through this. Okay. Elon Musk built his own satellites and used them to give free internet to people who couldn't afford it. Yeah, I mean, you can do great things. You can have done great things. You can contribute to your money to building great technologies and things like that, and giving them to people who can't afford it. That's fine, but it doesn't mean a bunch of false bullshit and aligning yourself with a very dangerous, world leader is justified. If you've done that, it's not like, oh, because he did this good thing, I'm gonna not call him out for this other thing. We need to get over that. This is like with Trump. It's like you need to be able to criticize Trump when Trump is wrong or acting like a fool or acting disgustingly immoral, or even maybe a shade of evil in the way he responded to this recent plane crash incident, when the reporter's asking him like, are you going to go visit the site? And he's like, he makes some kind of joke and treats it very lightheartedly about like, what, like, isn't the site on the water? Like, I really worry that a lot of people will see that as an example of something that's an okay way to be and an okay way to react in under such circumstances. I found that very disgusting. You need to clean your room, man. Which room? This room? This room's clean enough, I think. Which part? Which part would you like me to clean? Can't respond because you don't have answers. You didn't write anything before that, Quiller. That was a shitload of comments. Okay, we did have... You did have the... Okay, so now this person's saying we did have the greatest economy under Trump. Did you miss the economic misinformation part I just read? Do you want me to expand on that? We can get into more details here. All right. Let's go. Okay. Here's a more nuanced perspective. So economic growth. gross domestic product, GDP. In the first 3 years of Trump's presidency, 2017 to 2019, real GDP growth rates were 2.3%, 3%, and 2.2% respectively. While the 3% growth in 2018 was notable, it was surpassed in 17 of the preceding 39 years under presidents from Reagan to Obama. So let me read that again. While the 3% growth in 2018 was notable, it was surpassed in 17 of the preceding 39 years under presidents from Reagan to Obama. In 2020, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the economy contracted by 3.5%, marking the worst year in economic growth since 1946. So, whoever made that comment, John Lacombe, I really hope you don't believe that about the GDP anymore, at least. So we're going to move on to employment next. So there were 17 years that the 3% growth was surpassed. Out of the 39 years, or what does it say? Out of the 39 years from Reagan to Obama. Job creation. Prior to the pandemic, the unemployment rate decreased from 4.7% in January 2017 to 3.5% in February 2020. However, the pandemic led to a sharp increase, with unemployment peaking at 14.7% in April 2020. By the end of 2020, the rate had decreased to 6.7%, but this was still higher than at the start of his term. So, you know, you can try to make your arguments as to why that was the case, and you can talk about the pandemic or whatever. But again, prior to the pandemic, the unemployment rate was 4.7% in January 2017 to 3.5% in February 2020. And then after the pandemic, or at the end of 2020, the rate had decreased to 6.7%, but was still higher than at the start of his term. So employment rate, not so good, right? Trade and tariffs, trade deficit. Despite efforts to reduce it, the U.S. trade deficit increased during Trump's tenure. In 2024, the goods trade deficit reached a record $1.2 trillion, the highest ever. Significant deficits were recorded with countries like Mexico, Vietnam, India, and the European Union. So yeah, there was an increase during Trump's tenure in trade deficit when looking at trade and tariffs. Tariffs. Trump's imposition of tariffs on countries such as China, Canada, and Mexico led to retaliatory measures affecting various sectors in the U.S. economy. These actions increased costs for American consumers and businesses, and the anticipated benefits in terms of trade rebalancing were not fully realized. And this is recent, right? This is just a recent note on what's going on with tariffs. But yeah, the trade deficit issue speaks to his tenure. Federal debt, national debt. The combination of tax cuts and increased government spending contributed to a significant rise in the national debt. By the end of 2020, the federal debt had grown substantially, raising concerns about long-term fiscal sustainability. While there were periods of economic strength during Trump's presidency, particularly before the pandemic, the overall economic performance was mixed. Factors such as the increased trade deficit, rising national debt, and the economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic complicate the narrative of an unprecedentedly strong economy. Therefore, the claim that Trump's economy was the best in U.S. history is not supported at all by the evidence. So, yeah, the GDP would be a big one, and employment, where he wasn't strong. All right. Trump for the win. Trump has done shit all for this term. Weak men bring hard times. And again, Kelton Myers said economy was the greatest and about to be better than last time. So I just demonstrated that to be wrong. Let's see. It's difficult when you're not the type of person to do your best all the time to look up to someone who does. It's difficult when you're not the type of person to do your best all the time to look up to someone who does. Is that, you're saying Trump does his best all the time? Like, recent example, like, do you think he brought his best when responding regarding the plane crash? Or was that the best he could do with the economy during his tenure? Because it wasn't very good, right? It was okay, but it was nowhere close to the best ever. Someone says, bro, get over it. He's your president. Deal. He's not my president. I'm Canadian. Someone says, King Trump. If people don't like Trump, they can leave. Some movie stars have. Well, why would they leave? I mean, he's finishing his last term. It'll be over in the blink of an eye, right? They don't have to leave. I think a lot of people will suck it up and continue to engage with the democracy. Someone says mega. So yes, everything is going to be really, really great because he really, really makes it great. Something you wouldn't know anything about. So yes, everything is going to be really, really great because he really, really makes it great. Something you wouldn't know. Is that a real comment by a real person? He's really, really great because he really, really makes it great. Yeah. So the language you're using, it seems like you're very captured. Unless you're being, unless this is, you're playing a little bit. Liberal tears, blaming liberal tears for his, all of these false claims he makes, all this misinformation he spreads. That's all just liberal tears. Is that what informs your epistemology? Miguel says, this chat shows the mental ability of a lot of Americans. Can't tell if they're children or just simpletons. Education is a big problem, brother. It's a big problem. And Kelton Myers says, pardoned the January 6th patriots. What exactly was patriotic about January 6th? I would love to hear an answer to that. So it's undermining the rule of law, right? So are you a law and order voter and taxpayer, or are you okay with your fellow citizens undermining the rule of law? What if it's like Black Lives Matter doing that? How do you feel about that? I'm a law and order guy. People need to follow the law and act legally within the democratic process. That's what they should be doing. Encouraging, and does this not encourage future political violence? Oh, well, if I do something violent on behalf of the Democrats, engage in a violent riot at the Capitol, the next, Democratic president can just pardon me, right? Is that the game we want to set up? I don't want to live anywhere near that if this was my country. A disrespect to law enforcement. So many of those pardoned were convicted of assaulting law enforcement officers during the riot. Pardoning these individuals is seen as a betrayal of the law enforcement communities, as it diminishes the severity of crimes committed against officers. Do you think that's a valid point? Could you see yourself as a law enforcement officer feeling disrespected by these people who have assaulted police officers? I can see that. Overlooking priors in these individuals' criminal histories. A significant number of the pardoned individuals had prior convictions for serious offenses, including rape and manslaughter. The blanket pardon failed to consider these histories, leading to the release of potentially dangerous individuals. That's just completely retarded that wouldn't be considered. Hopefully you can agree with that point. So yeah, lots of concerns here regarding January 6th. Okay. John Lacombe says, Miguel, you got your papers? Oh, so okay, there's an assumption there that Miguel is Hispanic and he might not have his papers, and you use this as like a threat or a reminder of the chaos that is what's going on in the United States right now with ICE. So John Lacombe, do you see anything regrettable morally about your comment? Miguel, you got your papers? Doesn't seem like a lighthearted dig to me. What has Trump done for veterans is a question. Real says Trump is a laughing stock. First POTUS that can't travel outside the U.S. because he's a felon. He can't own a firearm either. Yeah, instead of, whataboutism. What has Trump done for vets? What have you done for vets? That's not an answer to the question. Answer his question, Rick. What have you... The fat Jesus says, literally no Republicans cried and made live YouTube streams on how bad Biden was. We accepted it, went on with our day. Why can't you people? Just like you, your eyes aren't open. You're still close to everything that is correct that he is doing. Well, let's stack those things up and we'll see if I agree with them. So when you make a comment like this, people, don't just say, just like you, your eyes aren't open. You're still close to everything that is correct that he is doing. Include the things that you think are correct that he is doing. Don't just leave it there. It makes me think you don't have anything to say, or you're just defending him without having any like solid argument or information. Someone says, cope. Who's paying for the wall? Mr. Good Citizen says, man, it sucks to be a liberal. Trump is killing it with Americans. Well, there seems to be a great divide right now from what I see. I don't think that's really killing it as a leader. Why does everyone ask what the president has done when they themselves have never done anything at all? Yeah, here's Rick again with whataboutism. Bro, shut up. Yeah, what did someone literally just mean that say that the That the Republicans just simply accepted the results of when Biden won? Are you kidding me, man? Who said that? Joe says, why is my food prices still high? Robin says, hey, Robin, Trump supporters drank the Kool-Aid. Well, I don't think they drank the Kool-Aid quite yet because a lot of them are still standing. Let's go with all the positives, what we as the Dems did. Sure, you will get more likes and love. Talking about the Republicans so sad and negative. Stay positive. World needs it. No. This is not. So I'm a Canadian, but looking at your country from the outside, look, I in a lot of ways, I truly believe that you guys are living in a shit country right now. And a lot of it has to do with the divide, the misinformation, disinformation, the lack of education. So staying positive and not addressing this misinformation and the lies and stuff like that is not going to do anything. The Dems need to really rebrand, become as muscular as they were when they had Obama at the helm, and they need to become as entertaining as that as well. The Obama period was a movement, a strong, muscular movement that was entertaining, big, and he and the United States is big on entertainment and rhetoric, and Obama had that rhetoric, So the Democrats need to rebrand and understand what their country is, which is, it seems like the Democrats were trying to appeal to an intelligent electorate. That's not going to get you anywhere in the United States. What they're trying to do is too intelligent right now. They need to become better entertainers if they want to compete. And it's a sad thing, but entertainment's your biggest export. You got to understand what fuels your country. Ascending Phoenix says, a felon convicted of no crime with no victims in a kangaroo court. Oh, okay. Yeah, let's get into that. Yeah, conspiracies about how, no, Trump didn't commit any crime. They're just out to get him. Trump has faced multiple legal challenges, leading to both criminal convictions and ongoing investigations. Which, by the way, some of these ongoing investigations are very serious. Trump might even have to serve some time. Number one, conviction related to hush money payments. Case details. In May 2024, Trump was convicted on 34, not one, 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. These charges stem from payments made to adult film actress Stormy Daniels during the 2016 presidential campaign to conceal an alleged affair. The payments were improperly documented in the Trump Organization's records. Yeah. Sentencing. In January 2025, just before his second term inauguration, Trump received an unconditional discharge, meaning he faced no prison time or fines, but retained a criminal record. Other legal challenges. Yeah, so he is a felon, right? Other legal challenges. Classified documents case. Trump faced federal charges for allegedly mishandling classified documents after leaving office. However, in July 2024, a judge dismissed the case, ruling that the appointment of special counsel Jack Smith was unconstitutional. Election interference investigations. Trump was under investigation for his alleged attempts to overturn the 2020 election results, including his involvement in the January 6th Capitol attack. After his re-election in 2024, the special counsel dropped these federal charges, citing the Department of Justice policy against prosecuting sitting presidents. Civil liabilities. E. Jean Carroll case. In May 2023, a jury found Trump liable for sexual abuse and defamation against writer E. G. Carroll, ordering him to pay $5 million in damages. Subsequent proceedings increased the total damages to over $80 million. Trump Organization fraud case in December 2022. The Trump Organization was convicted on 17 criminal charges related to tax fraud. Trump and his associates were found liable for fraud concerning the overvaluation of assets, leading to a substantial financial judgment against them. And just to outline the E. Jean Carroll case, because there should be more details. So a civil jury in New York found former President Donald Trump liable for sexual abuse. So he was liable for sexual abuse, right? Now, I'd be interested to hear what people think, but a lot of people would consider that enough to call Trump a sexual abuser. What do you guys think? I think it's probably enough for me. I think he's a sexual abuser. Let's see. We're going to get into debunking all the Kamala Harris bullshit as well. Actually, we might as well do that right now. So I know a lot of people who were like, oh, I voted for Trump because he was the lesser of two evils. And I was like, what? Lesser of two evils? What exactly is evil about Kamala Harris? And I get a lot of blah, 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 blah. Well, we'll talk about that right here. All right. So Trump and his supporters have propagated several false claims about Vice President Kamala Harris. And, a lot of friends I have who I know bought into some of this stuff, especially the ones who claim that Kamala Harris was the lesser of two evils. And I also want to say, when you have a dangerous candidate like Donald Trump, his character matters. I think it's a cop-out and morally irresponsible to simply say, I'm just going to focus on policies and the character of the individual I'm voting into the most powerful position on this planet. I'm not going to think about that. I'm just going to focus on policies. And the Republicans have a few policies that I like more than the Democrats. That should be weighed against how dangerous this individual is, and that he's a criminal, and that you're sending a message to your children, the children of the United States, that someone who behaves like this can become president. Someone who acts like this is a good choice for a leader. All of these messages you're sending to your children. Yeah. How about how many Trump supporters out there have little girls, and this sexual abuser guy that speaks in a very nasty, immoral way about women, We've caught him on a few occasions that became really, really public. But, usually if you catch a guy publicly on a few occasions like that, this is probably part of his regular repertoire. It wouldn't be that much of a stretch. So, I wonder what your daughters will think when they grow up, when, they come to find that you were a Trump supporter. It's something to ask yourself. So questioning Harris's racial identity. The false claim: assertions have been made that Harris is not truly black, with some suggesting she is solely of Indian descent. The reality is that Kamala Harris was born to an Indian mother and a Jamaican father, making her both black and Indian American. She has consistently identified with both heritages and is a graduate of Howard University, a historically black institution. Birtherism allegations, false claim. Some have questioned Harris's eligibility to serve as vice president, falsely claiming she is not a natural-born citizen. Yeah, when else have we heard this from the Trump world? He couldn't get over the fact that Barack Obama was a natural-born citizen. How many people still believe that bullshit lie that Trump couldn't stop spreading about Obama? Reality: Harris was born in Oakland, California, making her a natural-born citizen, eligible for the presidency and vice presidency. AI-generated crowd photos, false claim. Trump falsely claimed that Harris used artificial intelligence to create fake crowd images at her rallies. Reality: photos from Harris's rallies are authentic, with multiple news outlets confirming the presence of large crowds. So this AI thing, and talking about Trump. I asked the question in a video that I released recently, that because I just watched the new O.J. Simpson documentary that they dropped on Netflix, and I thought it was fantastic. Great documentary. I've seen many documentaries about the O.J. Simpson trials and the murders. More importantly, the murders. O.J. Simpson quite obviously murdered his ex-wife and a guy that was, essentially a good Samaritan friend who was dropping off a pair of O.J. Simpson's ex-wife's mother's glasses, and something happened and he got caught in the middle of this. O.J. Simpson obviously killed his ex-wife, butchered her and this other gentleman, and nearly sawed her head completely off with a knife. More evidence than I've ever seen for any criminal murder case, and I've seen hundreds of them, if not over 1,000 of them. And he famously walked. He was found criminally liable, or civilly liable for the murders. And he had to pay, I think it was $35 million in restitution, which I don't think he ever paid a penny of that. But, I was thinking about the AI thing, and how I asked the question, if Donald Trump was to be convicted of murder in the United States, with how captured his audience, his core audience is, would he just get away with murder despite, them having overwhelming evidence like the OJ case? And if one hardcore Trumper found their way onto the jury, it could be a hung jury or lead to an acquittal. So for the very wrong reasons, just like the OJ Simpson case, where, there's very strong arguments to be made that the reason why OJ Simpson got off was because he was black, and everything that was going on was in the middle of one of the worst eras of race relations, minus the slave trade that the U.S. has ever gone through. And it was a bad time in L.A. And as far as I'm concerned, O.J. Simpson got away with murder. So my question would be, someone like Trump, who has such a captured audience, who seems to not care about the truth, the hardcore fans of his, they're just willing to believe anything. If Trump said things like, "Oh no, that wasn't me in the video, stabbing Melania to death. that was AI generated, or, you know, whatever lies would have to be told, that there would be this, you know, public outcry like there was in the OJ case to, you know, this is just a witch hunt for Donald Trump. And, you know, and I see like real parallels there. One of the reasons why I made that video is because I can see like, you know, these two like larger than life characters who are deeply revered and loved by certain section of people. And, you know, that should be worrisome. And it's also like there should be no question in your mind that Donald Trump has tried to get away with breaking the law. I mean, he's been busted for these few things already, but how many other times has he broken the law and not been busted? With a guy with a history like this, usually you would be able to find many more instances where the guy has broken the law. If you could just find the information. So he's got a history of criminal behavior. But I thought that was an interesting question. I was imagining if Trump was on a murder trial, what that would be like, and how misinformation and disinformation would play into that. So misrepresentation of debate accessories. So false claim. After a debate, conspiracy theories emerged alleging Harris used Bluetooth-enabled earrings to receive answers covertly. And the reality was that Harris wore standard pearl earrings with no electronic capabilities. Did anyone out there believe that she was wearing these Bluetooth earrings? False attribution of violent statements. False claim. A fabricated quote attributed to Harris claimed she threatened Trump supporters with the, quote, vengeance of a nation. The reality was that Harris never made such a statement. The quote is entirely false. So, and this one I still hear. She made threats to Trump supporters. And this is what they're talking about. A fabricated quote attributed to Harris claimed she threatened Trump supporters with the vengeance of a nation. Misleading claims about Harris's record. False claim. Trump has made multiple false statements about Harris's policy positions and record, including misrepresenting her stance on healthcare and taxation. The reality is the fact checkers have debunked these claims, clarifying Harris's actual policy positions. So I'd want to know what actual claims. So let me go. What misleading claims did Trump make? Trump asserted that Harris supports mass amnesty and citizenship for all undocumented immigrants, including criminals. Harris has advocated for, and the fact is that Harris has advocated for comprehensive immigration reform, emphasizing a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants without serious criminal records. She has not endorsed amnesty for individuals with criminal backgrounds. So there's another Trump lie. See, when I expand all this stuff, it just, you know, the guy is a pathological liar. You cannot deny that at this point if you care about the truth. There's just too much evidence. There's more evidence for this maybe than evolution by natural selection. False accusations of supporting, quote, defund the police. Trump accused Harris of supporting the defund the police movement, suggesting she is anti-law enforcement. The fact is that Harris has clarified that she does not support defunding the police. Instead, she advocates for police reform measures aimed at accountability and community engagement. Inaccurate statements on Harris's criminal justice record. Trump portrayed Harris as being lenient on crime during her tenure as California's Attorney General. And the fact is that Harris has a complex record on criminal justice. While she implemented progressive reforms, she also upheld certain tough-on-crime policies. Trump's characterization oversimplifies and distorts her record. Surprise, surprise. False claims about crowd sizes at Harris's event. So yeah, we already went through this. Fake crowd images, those were debunked. Questioning Harris's, okay. So yeah, if anyone has any other claims about how, Kamala Harris was or Trump was the lesser of two evils, I want to really try to understand, if you're still believing what those evils are of Harris. I've literally debunked all of them. Like, if you're to say, like, I don't want a female leader, then I can't debunk that. I will argue with you about that from a normative stance and tell you that, a female can be just as qualified as a male to do this job. But if that's your stance, just say that. Just say it. Don't be a chicken shit and lie behind other lies. Say it. Just come out with it. Be honest. Because it really is hard to believe that people can believe such obvious misinformation or disinformation when it just takes a little bit of research to figure out whether Trump is telling the truth. Lack says the wall was so embarrassing, big failure. Yeah. Kevin says, keep crying. I'm not crying. I'm trying to understand. Currently right now, I'm trying to understand why people keep believing that, Trump was the lesser of two evils, especially people who they're like, normally I vote Democrat, but, it was just too much of a stretch to vote for Harris. It's like, yeah, why? And then they say these things that are just absurd and not true. Oliver, you make a great point. Don't forget the Ukraine war ended on day one. Oh, wait. Yeah. We're still at war over there. John Lacombe says, it's a big, beautiful wall. Like I said, doing what he said. There is no big, beautiful wall. What are you talking about? Someone said Trump is a beast. Depending on what you mean by that. Keys says, bro's just reading CNN news articles. No, I'm not. I have 14 different references and citations that all of my stuff is pulled from. It's 14 or more, always. Are all of these different companies working together? Are all the fact checkers working with CNN? Is that what you're going to go with? Zach said, this guy's small liberal brain can't think good. You don't sound very convincing. Yeah, we can get into what DEI actually is. We can do that. Yeah, that's good. We'll be able to use this clip as well. Oh, stretch. I gotta sit up straight. All right. DEI stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. It is a framework used in organizations, businesses, and institutions to promote fair treatment, representation, and opportunities for all individuals, particularly those from historically marginalized groups. Breakdown of DEI: diversity, the presence of differences within a group, including race, gender, age, religion, disability, sex orientation, socioeconomic background, and more. Equity, ensuring fair treatment and access to opportunities by addressing systemic disparities and recognizing that different people may need different levels of support to succeed. Inclusion, creating an environment where all individuals feel valued, respected, and empowered to contribute and participate fully. So in practice, in the workplace, hiring practices, training programs, and company policies that promote diverse representation and equitable opportunities. Education, inclusive curricula, fair admissions policies, and support for students from underrepresented backgrounds. Government and policy, laws and programs designed to reduce discrimination and increase access to opportunities for all. So 3 common criticisms of DEI. Some argue that DEI initiatives can lead to quotas or reverse discrimination if implemented poorly. Others believe that meritocracy should take precedent over identity-based policies. Some question whether certain DEI efforts create more division rather than unity. Now, these 3 criticisms are decent criticisms, and they're worth thinking about. They're worth having conversations about. And I know people like Sam Harris, Steven Pinker, some others raise these criticisms of DEI as well. And it's good to criticize systems of implementation and have conversations about these things. However, there is a litany of just false claims, not criticisms, just false claims of what DEI does or how it's applied. So let's go through some of those as well. So here's the false claim. DEI means hiring unqualified people based on race or gender. False. The reality is that DEI policies encourage expanding the talent pool to ensure diverse candidates have equal opportunity to compete for jobs. Merit and qualifications remain central in hiring decisions. Many organizations explicitly state that DEI does not mean hiring unqualified candidates. So that's probably the most common false claim I hear about DEI. And if someone is using DEI in that way, they're using it incorrectly. That would be something they should stop doing, to just like throw, competency or merit or qualifications out the door. That is not a reasonable application of DEI. And if you catch a company doing that, I will be the first to stand with you saying that that's wrong. And also, like, everyone does understand that DEI also relates to like bringing, starting to understand that women and females are just as competent as males and men, and they should be invited into all positions in the workforce and considered, right? And I hope you are all okay with that. And you all hope that that was a good thing that we did. That's DEI. Here's another false claim. DEI lowers standards. False. Reality. DEI initiatives do not inherently lower standards. Instead, they remove artificial barriers that have historically excluded certain groups. For example, if a hiring process favors candidates from elite universities without considering equivalent experience, a DEI approach might ensure that equally skilled applicants from different backgrounds are considered fairly. That's one you should easily understand. Like, if you went to a community college and you got a degree that's treated like across the board equivalent to this other degree from a very high priced university, And there's no good reason to believe that one is more qualified than the other. And the only reason why you're considering this other candidate is because of the prestige and the high price university that they went to. The DEI approach would consider that these two candidates may in fact be just as qualified, and we should consider that. That's all it is. Another false claim: DEI is just reverse discrimination. False, and then there's a caveat: in most cases, right? So DEI does not mandate discrimination against any group. However, some poorly designed DEI initiatives, which I was just talking about earlier, can result in unfair preferences, which is a legitimate concern. The goal of DEI is to reduce bias, not to create new forms of discrimination. So don't claim that just because you see this being used incorrectly. This is like with critical race theory, where people see instances, like a handful of instances of this being used incorrectly and causing problems. Then they paint all of DEI or all of critical race theory with that. That's ridiculous. If you see evolution by natural selection being taught incorrectly and ridiculously, don't throw out evolution by natural selection in the classroom. That would be ridiculous, right? Apply that to any other thing. This is another false claim. DEI forces companies to have quotas. False. Most DEI programs focus on increasing diversity through outreach and inclusion, not rigid quotas. While some policies, such as affirmative action in certain contexts, set goals to improve representation, these are typically aspirational rather than mandatory quotas. Aspirational rather than mandatory quotas. Another false claim: DEI only benefits minorities. False. DEI benefits everyone by fostering more inclusive workspaces, improving decision making through diverse perspectives, and reducing biases that can harm any group, including white men. Many DEI policies are also support veterans, people with disabilities, and economically disadvantaged individuals, regardless of race or gender. God, I have a long list here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but yeah, like this should just be an argument to get out there and research this stuff. If you're going to make claims about things and try to talk to people about issues, do a little bit of research. Shantez Lee, another left clown on YouTube. Yeah, I'm probably center left. Yeah. I don't consider myself to be a clown, but maybe to you I am. That's fine. Funko Pop collection. People believe this garbage because they're not thinking, they are believing. Well, yeah, we all have beliefs, but yeah, they're adopting these beliefs from people who are telling them things and not seeking the justifications for those beliefs. So when I bring callers on all the time and I try to get down to their justifications for believing something, let's say about Kamala Harris, it'll be like, well, that's what Trump said, or that's what this person said. They won't be able to like cite the date and time or when Kamala Harris said this. And then when they go to find it, this happens live on the air all the time. They go to find it. They can't find it because it doesn't exist. But what they do find is like all the fact checking to debunk it. Keith said, "You are nothing but a word salad. Get to your point." Everything I think most people would. I don't know if that was meant for me or who, but if you're talking to me, I think what I've been reading and talking about today is pretty. It's tangible. You should be able to understand it. I'm not getting into like metaphysics or meta epistemology or anything like that. Just a philosophy student says, "What is your epistemological framework?" I try to almost always rely on the correspondence criteria of truth to inform my epistemology. I use the JTB model, so I just outline the truth aspect. Justification in correspondence criteria typically requires evidence, so that's what I'm typically using for justification. And yeah, and I also understand that I have to, in fact, believe the propositions or believe the proposition. Proud American says, this guy has talked in circles this whole stream. Can you name one circle? Phoenix Rising says, Vanessa says, when people have no argument, they attack personally. Yeah, it's just fallacious, right? Like, that's another thing. People, like, if you want to get into the debate, politics world, go learn logic. Agents of Chaos. Joshua says, thank you for spreading info in this age of ignorance. You betcha. You can claim it's been good, but what has he done that helped your life? Nothing. That's in response to someone else. Someone just says Trump, Trump, Trump. Cheerleader. Alex Garreau says, I'm out. This guy just saying BS. Yeah, like, I'm not in your echo chamber, right? So what I'm saying probably does sound like BS when I'm debunking all of these Trump lies and, Trump supporter lies that are just constantly passed around. Like, if you're in a Facebook group that's like all Trump supporters, right? It's just going to be this constant flow of everyone agreeing with each other. You're in an echo chamber. And it's one of the issues with these certain kinds of social media groups where, and it really is a community issue in general, where we need to be promoting the idea of like bringing in the challenges, looking at the actual information, caring about the facts and starting from the facts with our conversations, and, having good ways of discerning what the fact is, or getting our hands on it. It's not easy because there are, powerful people that people look up to telling them that this thing is the fact and this other thing isn't. And then, like, we saw this with COVID where people just were believing like these anti-vax peddlers over actual virologists who are practicing today. And, professors and people who are tasked with educating our future virologists, they were believing these like fringe whistleblower type people, and it was just embarrassing. Keith said, you say easily debunkable, but yet you have not debunked anything. So you have some kind of block here. If you don't think that anything has been debunked today of all of these lies, that sucks. I wish you didn't have that block, but I feel like there were a few of those things that are just irrefutable, unless you bury your head in the sand and try to construct some kind of conspiracy around it. My back is killing me today. Well, it looks like you guys are getting into a healthy debate here. I just jumped to the front. Jeff says, should Asian people need to write more difficult exams to get into university? No. Not because they're Asian. Yeah, and I, again, like reading all of these comments, you guys, I haven't seen one credible claim about how Donald Trump was the lesser of two evils in reference to Kamala Harris. Haven't seen it. Why was Kamala Harris more evil? Diorsky on Discord says, I support Trump. So what? Yeah, that's okay. I would hope that you don't believe all the misinformation and lies and stuff. I mean, I would be interested to know why you support Trump. Why do you support Trump, Diorsky? What's worth supporting there? We're going to get into why Trump's dangerous next. All right, so Donald Trump is considered a dangerous figure by many political analysts, historians, and experts due to a combination of his rhetoric, actions, and policies that have undermined democratic institutions, inflamed divisions, and disregarded legal norms. Number one, undermining democracy and the rule of law. Trump has repeatedly attacked democratic institutions and norms, weakening public trust in the electoral process, the judiciary, and the peaceful transfer of power. The big lie, which we went through, he falsely claimed that the 2020 election was stolen, leading to the violent January 6th insurrection. This led to an attack at the U.S. Capitol, threats against election officials, and a wave of restrictive voting laws in Republican-led states. Election subversion attempts. He pressured state officials, Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, I think it is, to find votes to overturn the election. This is something a scam artist, a fraudster would do, right? This blatant attempt to overturn the federal election is considered a direct attack on democracy, and he's probably going to get charged for this, but we'll see. Encouraging political violence. So, and a lot of this is just Trump's rhetoric, which a lot of people are like, that's just Trump saying things, whatever. He just does that. So the January 6th attack, his fight like hell speech directly encouraged rioters to storm the Capitol. Impact, 5 people died, hundreds were injured, and democracy itself was threatened. Proud Boys and extremists. Now this one's a little more controversial. He told the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by, signaling support for violent extremists. The group later used this as a rallying cry, contributing to political radicalization. So yeah, you know, when you're dealing with a Proud Boys, or if you're dealing with like a white supremacist group or some group that is known to be violent, and I'll say like Black Lives Matter as well, you need to watch what you say to them and not throw fuel on their fire. And that's the thing about Donald Trump is when there's these little fires. And this is why he's not a uniter, he's a divider. When he sees these little fires, he sees an opportunity to make something of it. So he throws fuel on it. It's not like, how I would say most political leaders see situations like that. They want to dampen that fire. They don't want it to spread. They don't want to throw fuel on it. They want to throw water on it. They want to solve it. They want to stop the fire, like a firefighter would, right? They're not like some agent of chaos that wants to like get it hotter and see who reacts to it and get something out of it, get people fighting against each other. You know, I think Donald Trump likes to throw fuel on fires, and this one is an example. Support for political retribution. Trump has promised to seek revenge against his political opponents, calling for the imprisonment of adversaries. This sets a stage for an authoritarian approach to governance. And I would say this is probably one of the big reasons why, like sometimes a president will pardon others out of fear of someone like Trump, just like making their life hell for as long as they can through the judicial process once their time is served. Attacks on the free press. Trump has called the press the enemy of the people, a phrase historically used by authoritarian leaders. Demonizing journalists. He encouraged violence against reporters and attempted to discredit legitimate news organizations. If you want to look into this further, look up Committee to Protect Journalists. And the impact has led to increased threats against journalists and press freedom deterioration. Spread of misinformation. He has been a primary source of disinformation on COVID-19, election fraud, and social issues. So mis and disinformation. Racism, xenophobia, and religious bigotry. Trump has promoted racial division, anti-immigrant rhetoric, and Islamophobia. So now a lot of this stuff is not explicit, but implicit, right? Where someone should, see like white supremacists at Charlottesville, it should be easy to just outright denounce them, right? But you start saying things like, well, they're fine people on both sides. Again, this is an instance of him throwing fuel on a fire and not dampening the fire or putting the fire out by simply saying the morally responsible thing that, white supremacists need to be condemned. I don't want anything. And I know that he did say that. I will throw a bone at Trump where he does say the correct thing sometimes, but it also comes with the fuel. Very fine people on both sides. And that one was pretty big. The Muslim ban. He enacted an executive order banning travel from several Muslim majority countries. Impact. This reinforced anti-Muslim sentiment and disrupted thousands of lives. So anyone that knows me understands that I am staunchly outspoken against Islamism and violence from Islam. I think it cannot be tolerated. I am 100% against the enslavement of women who are forced to live in burlap sacks, in the burqa. I think there's actually millions upon millions of women that are enslaved on this planet right now that need to be saved from that. And I hope there will be actions taken to save women from that. But that doesn't mean I hate Muslims, or that that someone who is a Muslim should be treated as though they are more of an issue than anyone else. That is discrimination, period. And I, those are two separate issues. But throwing a Muslim ban out there is again, like, it adds fuel, and it adds arguments to the people I want to see removed from power, the Islamists, the Islamic extremists who support policies to enslave women. And it gives them more fuel and power. They can point at something like that Trump does and be like, see, they hate us. They hate you simply for being Muslim. Like, it's, and the antidote to this is a moral antidote, but it's also just understanding that the true power on this planet right now politically is diplomacy. Diplomacy is everything. That's where the power is. The power isn't in missiles. The power isn't in nuclear warheads. I actually think it's in diplomacy. I think Canada has become one of the most powerful nations, if not the most powerful nation on this planet, through diplomacy. Some might argue that, well, the United States has this big, powerful military and it's more powerful. But I think if the United States ever overstepped and overreached enough, the entire world would come down on the United States very, very hard. And, just like any other country, when you're on the global stage and lives are at stake, you should watch your step and understand that your words mean something. If you're president, you should be speaking carefully. You should be consistent. You shouldn't be a wild card. You shouldn't be a criminal. You shouldn't be a liar. You shouldn't be a bigot. You shouldn't be xenophobic. You shouldn't be racist. Anti-immigrant rhetoric. He claimed Mexican immigrants were rapists and promoted the Great Replacement theory. This fueled xenophobia and inspired hate crimes. They're not sending their best. They're rapists. They're murderers. Now, almost all Mexican immigrants, let's say, are peaceful people who are just trying to make some money for their family. And the majority of their money is being sent back to support their family. They're just seeking enrichment. And that was just another situation of, just something only, I think a deeply immoral person would say about Mexican immigrants. So we're only on point 4. I'm going to go to point 7 on this. Corruption and criminal activity. Trump has been involved in numerous legal scandals, including criminal indictments. Classified documents case we went through, he took top secret documents and obstructed their return. This posed a national security risk. Fraud and business crimes. He was found guilty of financial fraud related to his business empire. Demonstrates a pattern of deception for personal gain. Sexual assault verdict. A court found Trump liable for sexual abuse and defamation against E. Jean Carroll. So that means he's a sexual abuser, right? It means this means he's a criminal. He's a fraudster. He's a pathological liar. I think those three things, you're going to be really hard pressed to be able to disagree with those coherently. Disregard for science and public health. Trump's mishandling of COVID-19 resulted in hundreds of thousands of unnecessary deaths. I would agree with that. He downplayed the virus, mocked mask wearing, and pushed dangerous treatments like bleach injections. I know he spoke, positively about things like ivermectin and stuff like that. Anti-vaccine rhetoric. Despite overseeing Operation Warp Speed, he later fueled anti-vaccine sentiments when politically convenient. Economic lies and manipulation. Trump has misled the public about his economic record, making false claims about job growth and trade deals. Tax cuts for the wealthy. His tax cuts disproportionately benefited billionaires while increasing the national debt. You can go to the Brookings Institution and search Trump lies and manipulation. And we'll talk about the widened economic inequality impact of Trump's tax cuts. Tariffs and trade war. And I mean, stuff going on right now that is just hurting the United States diplomatically and probably is going to hurt financially as well. And recently, the cherry on top was just a little bit of evil slipping out of Trump. It's hard to call the guy evil because he's such an idiot. You feel like he's like a kid that just doesn't know any better sometimes. But in how he responded to the, I'm just reading through something here. But it was a despicable, disgusting reaction, citing DEI as a cause for this plane crash. When asked if he was going to visit the plane crash site, what you mean on the water? Like visit the water? No, I'm not going to visit the water. Like that kind of response. This is, not only like just a really bad take, it's one of the worst ways you can respond to a tragedy like this. Like, sure, it would be worse for him to say, "I'm glad they died. I'm glad they're dead." That would be worse. But it's almost as bad to treat this so lightheartedly and jokingly and turning it into some like, taking people's deaths and the magnitude of the situation and making a statement about DEI. Like it has anything to do with what happened. It might be his most disgusting moment, and he's had a lot of them. Just finishing my live stream, honey. Baby might need a rock to sleep. But let's see. Nah. Yeah, well, this is like round round 10, where I've asked for some information about Kamala Harris to show that she's as evil, or that Trump's the lesser of two evils between them, and everyone's come up short again. If there's anyone on Discord that has anything regarding that particular topic, drop it in the YouTube chat. Let's see what you guys got on Discord here. All right. Oh, I lost my camera. Sorry, I was reading. Let's see. Maybe we'll save that for later. Yeah, make sure you guys just join us on the Discord server. For some reason, I can't generate a link, so I got to give you our live room link. You guys can use that link to join us. How do I do that? Do I just pull them up? Grim, you put your hand up. Or yeah, anyone on Discord who wants to call up. Yeah, we can. Exactly, Bruce. The reason why the Discord links are not working, DEI. The reason why I didn't win the lottery last time I played, DEI. Well, put your hand up again, Grim. Shit or get off the pot. Just anyone who calls in. What I care about is fact-checking every claim you make. So make one claim at a time, please. Okay, invite to speak.
Howdy.
Can I hear Grim or can I not hear Grim? Grim, are you there?
Test 1 2. Test 1 2.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Test 1 2.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, there you go.
Hey,
how you doing?
Good, you?
I'm doing all right. It's an interesting year for sure, and I'm watching the Canadian government almost as much as I'm watching the American government. You guys are dealing with a lot up there as well, so it's interesting. I don't have many quarrels with what you're bringing up on, because you're bringing up really fringe stuff that I voted for Trump. I was mainly voting for RFK, and when RFK joined Trump, then I figured that's where my vote was going to go. I voted for him in 2016. Voted for him in 2024. Did not vote for him in 2020. Just to get my cards out there. And so when I was following RFK, it got me on to learning more about Trump and learning about his rallies and what he was saying, because I realized that I'm going to be part of a larger political agenda that I need to understand. I don't think, as you alluded to, that the American public was dumb. And if anything, they were becoming more politically advised than probably ever before in history, given the technology and information. So people were actually trying to do their research on Trump and just do more kind of deep diving on what was going on. And they relied more on social media, ground journalism, and other journalists, right? Maybe not mainstream media, to get that information. And is why we saw mainstream media starting to dive in popularity. I'll take you on this note. With Biden restricting more press passes than Trump, does that mean Biden restricted more press and freedom of speech than Trump?
Press passes?
Yeah. Yeah, so Biden restricted about 300 press passes given the new press systems that he put in there in around 2023. And so you had to meet prerequisites. There's a whole new setup for you to meet to get what we called hard press passes. And Trump is removing that. And it's never been the case, right? But it basically eliminated about 300 some odd press passes that were allowed to be in the press briefings and work with the press secretary. And now Trump is allowing all those press passes to reapply. He removed those conditions, as well as podcasters and freelance journalists to join him. Would you say that that's a move?
Well, I want to make sure. I want to make sure you're representing. I want to make sure you're representing the facts properly first here. So, Biden administration in 2023, Biden administration implemented updated standards for press pass renewals, resulting in the revocation of approximately 440 press passes. The administration cited the need to uphold journalistic standards and security protocols as reasons for the change. Trump administration, upon returning to office, announced plans to restore the revoked Biden administration passes. Additionally, the administration extended media access. Okay, so yeah, great. So it sounds like what you're saying is true. And your question is whether do I think this is a free speech issue here?
My question is, just in your opinion, then, if you looked at the two of them when it came to freedom of the press, right, and transparency with the press secretary, right, would you say that Biden's administration, right, silenced, right, certain press outlets that they probably felt like they didn't want, versus Trump, who is allowing all those press passes to come back in, and he's been, obviously battling CNN on a daily basis and other things, so he's not kicking them out of the ring per se.
Well, I care highly about journalistic standards and security protocols. So I'd want to know more about like so how many let's see. So what were the standards of entry after Biden implemented the update?
Do the standards matter?
Yes.
If the effects, right?
Effects
are disparaging.
I don't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry who owns a media company to be able to get in there, especially if there's someone like Alex Jones who's just a nonsense generator and misinformation spreader. Yeah, I don't want Alex Jones in there.
But if the end result is, right, that 300 media passes or 400 media passes, right, are revoked, right, and a lot of those media that a lot of people thought were maybe credible, and maybe might not think they're credible, but it's not up to the executive branch to say which one is credible or not in the way that you poise Trump, right, and say, well, he's telling which one's fake news and which one's not, right?
Apparently
so,
it is.
So here you have Biden saying, okay, we're going to change standards, right? So that, and then the end result is that 300 to 400 passes are now removed from the press, right? That to me, like censoring free press, regardless of whether you don't like them or not. To me, that's the equivocation of saying, well, redlining isn't racist, because it just affected a lot of people.
Slow down. You're gish galloping. There's too many claims. So the first part, you said it's not up to them to decide about journalistic standards and security protocols?
No, it's out of context, but it's fine.
So is it up to them, the administration, to decide, who's credible and who isn't? Because that's what you just claimed.
No, I think it's up to the administration on who gets press secretary passes, right, or hard passes, right, based on the standards that they've had in place.
Oh, no,
when those standards are shifted.
Don't skip by that. Why should it be based on standards they've had in place, and who made those standards?
Well, I assume the executive branch has made those standards, right, along with the press secretary office for those standards. And done so in a way, right, that is hopefully unbiased and security focused, Okay.
You hope that, or do you know that? Let's figure
it doesn't really matter what I hope, right?
Well,
that's not the point. The point is, if the end result is that 400 press passes were then revoked, I don't care about what standards you set. The effect, right, had a negative effect on free press. Not, well, those were 400 people that maybe shouldn't have been there.
No.
I don't think so.
You're viewing it as a negative effect on free press because there's less people allowed in. That could actually have a positive effect on free press because there's a higher journalistic standard from the free press being represented. Like good and bad should not be measured when it comes to press by numbers of how many people are doing it or can do it or are allowed to do it. It should be measured by journalistic standards, credibility, all of these things that journalists are supposed to learn when they go to study journalism. And a lot of these people who start up these companies, these media companies, don't have have an inkling on how to even discern what's true or what the facts are. So it seems like this policy in a country that is just full of bullshit peddlers who claim to be media outlets, seems like this policy was put in place to weed some of those out. I think it's a great thing. But didn't you say in the Discord chat that you have strong arguments as to why, Trump was the better or the lesser of two evils to Harris?
No.
Oh, I thought I read that.
No.
Okay.
Are there any free press outlets, right, that you can think of that you disagree with that were rejected hard passes or press passes by the Biden administration post 2023?
Well, let's
right.
see.
And do you think that if there's of the 400, if there's any that you agree with that was a threat against free press?
Let's take a look.
Sure.
Let's look at the
U.S. sources.
Standards.
A lot of it is international too. A lot of them are international sources.
In May 2023, the Biden administration updated the criteria for journalists seeking a White House hard pass, which grants a regular access to the White House complex. The revised standards required applicants to be assigned to cover the White House regularly, hold accreditation from a recognized press gallery in either the U.S. Senate, U.S. House of Representatives, or Supreme Court, submit to and pass a Secret Service background check. Additionally, requests for hard passes needed to be submitted on official letterhead from the journalist's employer. These changes aim to ensure that press credentials were granted to actively engaged journalists adhering to established journalistic standards. However, the updated criteria led to the revocation of approximately 440 press passes as some journalists did not meet the new requirements. The administration emphasized that the intent behind these revisions was to maintain the integrity of the press credentialing process and uphold security protocol. Okay, yeah. In May, the Biden. Okay, where's the list? I'm having a hard time finding the list. Is there a list of journalists? But if you have some names, you can read them off if you want. Grim.
Sure. I think that I think there's a few of them, if I remember right, because we talked about 3 years ago. There's a few Fox News journalists who went independent, who were trying to get press passes. They were rejected. A lot of them were international.
Do you know that
people that were just?
You don't have
a lot of them
names?
that are very anti. I've got
here's
few.
one.
I'm just yeah. There was one local too. I can't remember. It was the Daily Mail. I can't remember that guy's name, but he was coming up in the Daily Mail. He was denied press passes. He was bitching and complaining. I remember that.
Fred Lucas.
I can get a list.
might be Fred Lucas. Let's see.
No, it's a different guy.
Why
Fred
was Lucas denied? Let's check one of these. Fred Lucas, a veteran White House correspondent for the Daily Signal since 2009, lost his White House hard pass due to the updated credentialing requirements implemented by the Biden administration in May 2023. The new policy mandates that journalists possess accreditation from a recognized press gallery. Okay. This Daily Signal does not hold such. Oh, okay. So they didn't have the accreditation from the press gallery in the U.S. Senate, House of Representatives, or Supreme Court to qualify for the hard pass. So despite applying for congressional and Supreme Court press credentials, Lucas had not received approval by the time the new policy took effect. So consequently, his hard pass was revoked, limiting his ability to access the White House without undergoing the more cumbersome daily pass. Oh, but they could still have a daily pass. So let's see this.
Oh, they His hard passes get you into the press secretary room. The Daily Signal, that's what I was trying to think of. The
That's
Daily
what I
Signal,
just looked
which
up.
has press passes. Yeah, that's the one that covers Congress and the Supreme Court, but they didn't allow them to go into the press room, press secretary.
So wait a sec. So they could still engage. So yes, journalists who lost their White House hard passes due to the May 2023 credentials changes were still eligible to apply for daily press passes, while the updated policy tightened the criteria for obtaining a hard pass, requiring, among other things, accreditation from a recognized press gallery. Journalists who did not meet these standards could also get a daily pass. Or the process for obtaining a daily pass is more cumbersome.
Right.
So if we're talking here, we got to make it more cumbersome, but they're still able to get access to this. I'm fully fine with what Biden did, and I think it's a good thing.
Okay.
Great.
Do you think that the press has had more access, right, to Biden himself and his administration from a press standpoint and from a congressional standpoint, more so than Trump or Obama?
Did this policy limit access?
I'm not asking if that policy did. I'm asking during his admin, right? During his administration, right? The press has been completely outspoken against the fact that there has been a lack of interviews, a lack of people in the Oval Office, a lack of people in the press secretary room, and a lack of answers from congressional hearings, which they have been asking from the administration, right, on transparency, right, to get to their constituents. So when it comes to not only the freedom of the press, but freedom of information to figure out what the Biden administration has been doing, do you think that they have been extremely transparent during the Biden administration, more so than the Trump administration or the Obama administration?
Yeah, well, let's see here. Let's look at the information, because I don't want to go off just by what I think, because I've maybe seen 2 press conferences in the past, 3 years. So the level of press access has varied between Biden and Trump administration, reflecting their distinct approaches to media engagement. Biden administration, press conferences. During his first 20 months in office, President Joe Biden held 17 press conferences, which is fewer than his recent predecessor. For comparison, President Donald Trump held 39, and President Barack Obama and George W. Bush held 37 during the same period. Biden conducted 42 interviews in his first 20 months, the fewest among presidents since Ronald Reagan. Informal exchanges. Despite fewer formal engagements, Biden participated in 326 unscheduled interactions with reporters during this period. Trump had 39 in comparison in the press conferences in his first 20 months. Trump was notably more accessible to the media, engaging in numerous interviews and informal interactions. He often addressed reporters directly, providing frequent opportunities for questioning. Informal exchanges. Trump had 781 informal exchanges with reports during his first term, significantly more. So and then your question is was Biden available enough? It probably is going to depend on who you ask, right? And to me, what?
No, that's kind of a straw man. What I'm saying is, when it comes to transparency, things like freedom of the press, access to the president.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. Okay. You said what I was asking, and I said that's not what I asked. So
yeah, that's not a straw
fine.
man. But
No, okay, my bad. Anyway, I'm just trying to say is that like my you're right. I didn't take a stance. I asked a question, but if I'm saying, listen, my stance is when it came to freedom of the press, access to the presidency for transparency, and congressional oversight committees that are asking the executive branch, right, for transparency, right? What we saw was a lack of transparency and a lack of access, right? More so than our past presidents, right? In my lifetime, right? And I have the numbers to prove it, right? To show that they just didn't have that much access. There was no engagement. And so people were
no engagement.
Basically in the dark. I mean, practically no engagement. When I say something like the only thing it looks that he actually did was give informational questions and answers. Like he actually just, the White House and his executive staff basically just put out a lot of, oh, sorry, I cut out. They put out a lot of informational flyers, but when it came down to press interviews and it came down to press conferences, Biden was the least. I mean, not even less than not even half, but way less than half than all other presidents in my lifetime. So I don't look at that to be transparent, right? Or somebody who is promoting freedom of press or trying to promote, this ideal.
That's a mistake.
That they're giving the right narratives. The answer is we don't know the narratives because it's very hard to access the president and the executive branch on what the fuck is going on.
You're making a mistake thinking that equates to a lack of transparency. You can be transparent and have less, like you would agree with that, right? You can be transparent and have limited press availability. It depends on how you're using that time. But I'll agree that it seems to be definitely outside the norm. I would probably, and what I'm reading here is a lot of analysts would say that, although a lot of people are saying that this could cause a hindrance to transparency and effective communication, that this was probably done for strategic reasons by the Biden administration. And when they say strategic reasons, maybe it has to do with his age. I mean, that's what I would think, but I don't know. But no, I don't see this as an issue anywhere close to causing me alarm over Joe Biden or his administration compared to anything I've cited here today about Donald Trump's administration or him as a character.
Do you think Joe Biden and the executive branch has had any, would you say, collusion or corruption, right, with Department of Justice, including the FBI and the CIA, when it comes to targeting and going after the political opponents, right, and utilizing political tactics through people like Special Agent Jack Smith and AG Merrick Garland, right, to go after Trump, right, as Trump is running against him, right? Do you feel like that they're doing this on false pretenses, right? Do you think that there actually is good evidence, right, for them to do this?
So you're asking if Biden has broken the law, because this would be against the law, right?
I'm not asking if Biden. You
don't think that would be against the law,
right? I don't know, man. That's for so much more information and things. If the illusion of corruption is there, it's worth investigating and worth figuring out like exactly what the fuck happened, right? Because if you're having a political opponent who is being targeted and ran through court while they're running against another politician, do you find that concern, especially when looking at other countries?
No. Trump was brought to court and charged because he's a criminal, and he was found to be a criminal.
He was charged for felonies for an accounting error, right, during his campaign running in 2020.
Not an accounting error. Hang on. Okay, let's pull up the actual case then. if you want to look at this.
It was 34 felonies in the charge of paying, right, a non-disclosure to Stormy Daniels, and those 34 payments were put under campaign financing rather than his personal funds, and they were done so by a lawyer and by an accountant with no sign-off whatsoever under Trump, and tried under the Ninth Circuit District Court. A crime, by the way, which usually doesn't result in a felony, much less 34 counts of felonies. But what I'm talking about is Merrick Garland ordering the raid, right, of Donald Trump's house in Mar-a-Lago and his estates, and freezing his assets, right, in violation, because there was no order from Congress to allow the archivist to proceed to do so, but yet they did it anyway.
So you understand,
and therefore it got thrown out.
That Trump was charged because there was an intent. Like, the reason why it went from being a misdemeanor to a felony is because it was demonstrated that there was an intent to commit or conceal the crime,
which was thrown out because there was an illegal search and seizure, which led to that conclusion. However, Joe Biden was charged, right, with the same measurements, right? Except for the fact that they showed that what the special prosecutor said, which they didn't like his end result. They said, but we're not going to press charges because we feel that Joe Biden did not understand, or was too incompetent at the time to understand, what those files were, even though knowingly that those classified files were obtained while he was a senator and not a vice president or a president.
So you're talking about the classified documents investigation in November of 2022, right?
I'm talking about the classified documents that Biden was held with and that Trump was held with, right? The ones that Trump was held with were obtained by a legal search and seizure. And so anything that you did obtain from that to say what he could or could not do with those doesn't matter. There's only one person in the country who allows to say which files are declassified or classified, and the highest authority of the land is the president.
Yeah. So in November 2022, classified documents from Biden's tenure as vice president were discovered at the Penn Biden Center. Subsequent searches revealed additional documents at his Wilmington, Delaware residence. Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed Robert K. Herter as special counsel to investigate the potential unauthorized removal and retention of classified material. February 2024, Herter concluded that while Biden had, quote, willfully retained classified information, there was insufficient evidence to prove criminal intent, and no charges were filed. There wasn't insufficient evidence to prove criminal intent in Trump's case.
What? Right. And the reason, right, why you had, and that's fine because you have Merrick Garland and Special Agent Jack Smith disobeying the law, disobeying Congress, right, to go do that and say, we have intent, he has intent. So why would I listen to two people who are violating the law that Trump has intent? And then at the same time, when Joe Biden and if you actually listen to the testimony of the agent, he says that Biden is too incompetent. He doesn't understand what these files even are. So therefore he doesn't have intent because he seems to be too incompetent about what the files are.
I don't know where you got incompetent from. Like, where are you reading that from? That's not in the legal documents. And also, it wasn't like these two guys you think who are going after Trump just made it up that Trump had intent to commit or conceal the crime. This was found to be the case through due process, judicially.
Illegal due process. I'm not going to listen to a prosecutor and an AG who are violating the law to go after a political opponent.
Dude,
right?
You're captured.
And so while there may be some while there may be some truth to that, and I can grant you that, because I didn't like how Bolsonaro came up from Brazil and was hanging out in Mar-a-Lago at that time, right, with these quote unquote classified documents. Yeah, I don't like that. I think that there's a lot of issues there. What I don't understand is how then I'm supposed to take anything coming out of a corrupt AG and a corrupt special prosecutor who have been shown to be part of also the Russia collusion issue, which turned out to be completely fake and founded through the Hillary Foundation, right? Hillary's foundations. Yeah. That was an issue, which it took 4 years for senators to pull that out and actually prove and put in the record. Why would I believe these people, right? And what credibility do I have from these people when they have illegally done a search and seizure? I don't. It may be true what they're saying.
Yeah. Instead of believing the legal
not really
process,
fair to give them credibility.
Instead of believing the legal process, you're believing your own conspiracy here. Are you not?
No.
You have a conspiratorial idea that because these guys acted, in a way that you are calling illegal, which, by the way, they've never been charged with any kind of crime for this. You're saying because they acted this way that you're not going to trust that there was an intent to commit or conceal this crime by Trump. And that's a conspiracy. You're talking about a conspiracy within that would include a lot of people who are all involved in that, the entire case against the falsifying business records.
No, I don't think you're familiar with the case. And so therefore you think it's a conspiracy theory. I don't think you're getting this. Merrick Garland was AG. Jack Smith was special prosecutor for Merrick Garland. Okay. When they did the search and seizure, they sent a note to Congress, right? That's done through the archivist and through the archives, right? Through classified files. Okay. Congress has to authorize, right, the searching of Trump's estate. They did not do so. So they illegally did a search and seizure. That's why the case got thrown out. Okay. Why am I supposed to, right, believe anything now that comes from AG or Jack Smith regarding this case if they are not following the law? Why are they doing that? Why are they not following the law? Why are there text messages amongst FBI agents to stop Trump and stop him not running for president?
Let's see. Trump is to argue that the search was politically motivated. However, also judicial reviews. Okay, let's clear this up. In August, the FBI executed a search warrant at former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. This is what you're talking about. As part of an investigation into his handling of classified documents. Is this what you're talking about, Grim?
Yeah.
Okay, because what I was just talking about before were the 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. And now you've moved to talking about...
I don't really care about that.
But you were talking about it as though it was connected to what I was talking about and reading about.
Yeah, he was tried under Ninth Circuit District Court in New York, right? One of the most corrupt fucking court districts in the country. If you actually look at their lawsuits and the payouts and things like that and the corruption in that Ninth Circuit District Court, that's interesting. Number two is you have the New York Attorney General violating Congress and saying that, no, I'm still going to pursue and go after Trump over this. Number three is that this man is being held on 34 felony accounts for less than $100,000 in 34 payouts. Right, for
it was $130,000. It was $130,000.
Sorry, $130,000. My apologies. Right around $100,000. Right, $130,000. Right, 34 counts. Right, and 34 felony accounts. This actually was case precedent. There has never been a precedence whatsoever. Right, for that amount of felonies over this similar action. So number one, he's being held to a standard above the law, right? And interesting because it's up to the prosecutor and up to the judge and the jury to decide how many counts they want to be, and that's fine. Wow. They prosecute him for all of those, all 34. Now he's a felony 34 times over, right? He gets zero amount in jail. In fact, even 2 months ago, the judge says, I'm not going to really award any jail time. We're just going to put it on the record. Now, I'm asking you, right, between these felonies, through an illegal raid in Mar-a-Lago, through litigations, including even the E. Jean Carroll case, right, or through multitude of many other harassments, have you ever seen in America, right, the weaponization or an administrative perspective going from a DOJ towards somebody who is running against the current sitting president. I have never seen this in the history of America, and the only time I do see this is in other corrupt countries where they are targeting political opponents. So that is why a lot of people, in my opinion, voted for Trump, is because people did their research. And A, they didn't like their current situation, and B, they kind of saw what the current administration was doing to this guy. And at some point, you've kind of got to weigh the odds and go, dude, at what point are they just fucking targeting this guy?
What you just engaged in, Grim, is what I call O.J. Simpson reasoning. The people who found a way to find O.J. Simpson not only not guilty, but innocent of his crime in their own mind was by doing exactly what you just did. Instead of focusing on the cases themselves, where Trump was found to be guilty of these felonies, he committed them. And the reason why they weren't just treated as misdemeanors is because there was evidence to commit or conceal. To not focus on the details of the case, and you bring up the E. Jean Carroll case as well, to not focus on those details and to focus so hard on the conspiracy.
Focus on the details.
It's taking away from the crimes themselves. You're focusing on the circumstances surrounding. You're building a conspiracy is what you're doing. And you might not want to call it that, but you're building this conspiracy theory of how it's not Trump's ability to just break the law and do what he wants. It's the fact that, he was running again. And I already debunked this the other day, that the decision on the E. Jean Carroll case to go after Trump was before he even announced his bid for presidency again. But
again, correct. Yeah, again. Okay.
So all,
when did he sexually assault E. Jean Carroll?
What's that?
When did he sexually assault E. Jean Carroll?
When did he?
Yeah. You don't know?
Well, I don't want to get it wrong. I'm pulling up the information. I want to start a culture of people actually getting the information and not operating on, faulty memories when it comes to this stuff. So in response to Trump's denials, Carroll filed a defamation lawsuit. So she claimed that Trump forced himself upon her after a chance encounter in a store in 2019, right?
Nope. I don't believe in 2019, no.
When was it? Or sorry, mid 1990s. Yeah, mid 1990s. Yeah.
Mid 90s. Yeah, it was. Yeah, about 20 years ago. Yeah. So
in Bergdorf Goodman,
I understand it might take.
And there was an amendment made by the ASA, is what it's called, that allows people, because of the history and how hard it has been, especially for women in the 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, to come forward who were victims of assault. There was this, it's called, I have it up here somewhere.
Sure. That might be fun. Do you find it suspicious, right, that she brings this forward, right? When he said that he was going to run for a second term, he's been running for a second term. Do you find it suspicious that she brings it forward 20 years later during this time? It just happens to be apropos, right when he's running again.
No, I don't find it suspicious. The reason why she brought it up, and there were 2,500 other cases that came from this, was because there are many women, including her, that were unable to go after the people that assaulted them because of the statute of limitations issue. And there was an amendment made so that many other women, not just her and other victims, could go after their abusers. And I think it was a fantastic thing. And you should be in support of that. If you're someone that believes that people should be held accountable for the crimes they commit.
I grant that. However, when you have consenting adults from 20 fucking years ago right? And then someone wants to rail you through court 20 years later, there's usually a reason for that, right? You have a guy who is in New York. He's kind of this playboy fucking real estate guy. I'm sure he did a lot of inappropriate things with women. In fact, I'm sure you have, and I have, and many other people have had awkward interactions. And I don't know that situation. I don't know. I know I've listened to E. Jean Carroll. She doesn't sound all together. I don't know what she was like in the 90s. And I know what he did. I've read those parts of those court filings because it was a jury awarding, right? And so it got open, it got public, and what he did to her, it wasn't rape, really, and he's not a rapist, like in my mind. It wasn't. It was kind of lightly with the sexual assault thing. It's kind of ironic that he says grab him by the pussy because it's literally kind of what he did. But the standard, right? And then I look at that and I go, yeah, that's the guy. If I had to look at the sexual assaults towards Obama, from gay men to women, they are rampant. If I had to look at the sexual assaults towards Biden, right, they are rampant. And so there's a lot of sexual assault allegations that go against presidents, right, as they run. The question is who is willing to put up the money and put up the power, right, to make sure that they are pushed forward in the light? And then why in the Ninth Circuit District Court was it being put there? That's not where the crime was committed. Keep that in mind. And so that's the question: is why are these things happening? Why is this person being targeted? And why do we only see something like this akin to other countries that is happening now in America?
I think you're assuming that anyone would think that this would hurt Trump in any way. Do you really think anyone actually believes that this E. Jean Carroll case would hurt Trump in any way?
I think the E. Jean Carroll case is interesting and an odd coincidence that all of a sudden now it's happening. And if you actually listen to interviews with E. Jean Carroll, there's just a lot of discombobulation. It's very hard to listen to her and see if there's like a good track mind there. That's concerning to me, right? And so then you wonder, okay, maybe there's something behind it. Maybe there's something nefarious behind it, but I don't have evidence, so it's hard to put that evidence. But if I put that in a meta-analysis of anything from the Russia collusion case and how much that was made up, the classified documents situation and how much of that was fucking made up, right? Or you look into just general litigation and harassment, U.S. attorneys that are being paid by tax dollars, right? That it's all coming to light right now. It's all coming to light through Senate hearings. It's all coming to light through senators who are admitting all their evidence that they've had for years that they're now putting into the record that we're all getting a hold of. And it's important to look at that stuff and say, dude, it seems to be, I'm not saying it is, not my claim, but it seems to be that the last executive branch was weaponizing the DOJ against political opponents. Do you find that to be a concern if that is the case?
You said it seems to be because you've built a conspiracy around this in your mind. That's what I believe. And like I said, this ASA added this 1-year look back window for survivors of sexual assault to file civil lawsuits. There were how many of them? So there were I saw a number at some point.
I feel like you're catching up with some of the news now. And so it's I don't know if there's some Dunning-Kruger or if there's some just like lack of overall, because there's going to be multiple sources of evidence, right, that are going to push you to that point. And I could try to help you with some of the evidence that I have and some of the evidence that I found, but it's hard to have a...
Yeah, I'm not going to listen to spout off about Dunning-Kruger and all kinds of shit, Grim. Like, I've been very patient with you, but you build conspiracies in your mind. You draw these lines, and I'm very, very rarely convinced by your way of thinking, and it hasn't changed today. I think you are, you see all of these workings and things, and you're drawing these lines, and you're trying to make it make sense in this grand conspiracy to weaponize these institutions to go after Trump, and it's just, I mean, I'm honestly tired of listening to it. It's taxing. So E. Jean Carroll was able to bring charges against Donald Trump due to New York's Adult Survivor Act, ASA, a law that temporarily lifted the statute of limitations for survivors of sexual offenses to file lawsuits. Key legal basis for the case: New York's Adult Survivors Act, signed into law in May 2022. The ASA provided a 1-year look-back window from November 24th, 2022 to November 24th, 2023 for survivors of sexual assault to file civil lawsuits, regardless of when the alleged incident occurred. Carroll took advantage of this temporary legal window to sue Trump in November 2022 for battery, sexual abuse, and defamation due to Trump's denial and disparaging remarks. Defamation claims: Carroll first sued Trump in 2019 after he publicly denied her accusations, saying she was not his type and that she fabricated the claims to sell her book. However, the lawsuit faced delays due to legal questions about whether Trump, as president, had immunity. When Trump repeated his denials in October 2022, Carroll filed a second lawsuit, which included both defamation and battery charges under ASA. Legal strategy. So again, let me read that again. When Trump repeated his denials in October 2022, Carroll filed a second lawsuit, which included both defamation and battery charges under the ASA. Legal strategy and court decisions. The courts ruled that Trump was not protected by presidential immunity for the defamation statements he made after his presidency. Carroll's first lawsuit was delayed, but later resulted in an $83.3 million judgment against Trump in January 2024. The second lawsuit proceeded under the ASA and led to a $5 million judgment in May 2023. Why was this possible? Civil versus criminal. The lawsuit was civil, not criminal, meaning it was about financial damages rather than jail time. ASA's temporary window, the law allowed old cases to be filed for a limited time. No statute of limitations for defamation. Because Trump continued to make statements denying the allegations, Carroll could sue for defamation as a separate claim. So yeah, I think it's a great thing. It's basically, as soon as this look back window was signed into law, she took advantage of it. And I think it's a great thing. And she won. Yeah. But notice how, Grimm, he spent the whole time trying to deflect and apologize for Trump, I would say, and engage in whataboutism and pointing the finger at Biden. Classic. And I mean, we didn't even get into RFK Jr., but that guy's just a peddler of anti-science. He was a bullshit artist. We can actually do a quick, I actually have a page on him too. Let's see. Yeah. RFK Jr. has been associated with several positions and actions that contradict established scientific consensus. Anti-vaccine advocacy, Thimerosal, and autism claims. Kennedy has promoted the debunked theory that Thimerosal, a mercury-based preservative formerly used in vaccines, is linked to autism. He authored Thimerosal, Let the Science Speak, advocating for its removal despite scientific evidence affirming its safety. Children's Health Defense. As chairman of this organization, Kennedy has disseminated misinformation about vaccine safety, contributing to vaccine hesitancy. COVID-19 vaccine misinformation. During the pandemic, he propagated false claims about vaccine safety and efficacy, undermining public health efforts. HIV/AIDS denialism. In his book, The Real Anthony Fauci, Kennedy questions the established link between HIV and AIDS, echoing discredited theories and misrepresenting scientific research. Opposition to I think it's fluoridation, something like that. Kennedy has expressed opposition to the, I think it's fluoridation, like fluoride of drinking water, a public health measure proven to reduce dental cavities. Fluoridation. Let's see. I want to see more on that. Yeah, okay. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been a vocal opponent of adding fluoride to drinking water, a practice endorsed by numerous health organizations for its role in preventing tooth decay. He has asserted that fluoride is linked to various health issues, including arthritis, bone fractures, bone cancer, IQ loss, neurodevelopment disorder, and thyroid disease. However, many of these claims lack robust scientific support. In November 2024, Kennedy announced that if Donald Trump were elected president, the administration would advise all U.S. water systems to remove fluoride from public water. This stance has reignited debates over the safety and efficacy of water fluoride. It's important to note that the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, considers water fluoride one of the top public health achievements of the 20th century, citing its effectiveness in reducing tooth decay across various populations. Yeah. This is what happens when, instead of trying to, upgrade your software, improve your thinking, getting a better grasp on logic, better understanding the scientific process, you just dig your heels in and go with your gut. And Robert F. Kennedy is a classic conspiratorial thinker, conspiratorial line drawer, and I'm not surprised that Grim, our last caller, is a fan of his. Wi-Fi and health claims. He has suggested that Wi-Fi exposure can compromise the blood-brain barrier, a claim not supported by definitive scientific research. Chemtrail conspiracy theory. Kennedy has endorsed the debunked chemtrail conspiracy theory, which falsely alleges that airplane contrails are chemical agents deliberately released into the atmosphere. Medical racism conspiracy theories. He has produced content targeting Black Americans with misinformation, suggesting that vaccination efforts are experiments on Black communities, thereby exploiting historical medical injustices to promote vaccine hesitancy. Yeah. Deeply, deeply ignorant person. Believes a whole lot of horseshit, shouldn't be trusted on anything scientific. And now he's like, isn't he head of Trump's science advisory board or something? What a disgrace. What an absolute disgrace. Hey, Canaman, I invited you to speak.
I will accept, my friend. Thank you.
Yo.
So I grew up in a medical family. My father was a nurse. My mother worked in a hospital. And she was a secretary. She wasn't medical personnel. I myself was a certified nursing assistant. for about 4 years in my younger career. I worked with Alzheimer's and dementia patients in nursing home settings. All of my patients were only there because they survived polio.
Yeah.
Some of them were only there because they were just at the right age to get the polio vaccine, the one that actually eradicated polio, not only in the U.S., but in almost every developed country in the world. With RFK Jr. in charge of the Department of Health, of all places, I think we can look to get polio back. We've already had measles come back into the country because of anti-vax sentiment and rhetoric, and it's all unfounded. None of it is based on good science. There's a term in the cannabis growing industry, there's science and there's bro science. And these conspiracy theories are all built on bro science. They're all, I heard this from someone. Nobody studied to find out whether these ideas are fact or not. They haven't falsified them. The only thing that we've falsified them with is the knowledge that we've obtained through, 100 years of testing them.
Yeah.
He's very dangerous for the country. And what I'd like for any RFK Jr. supporter to help me understand is how can he know more than the people who do it for a living?
Yeah. Hubris is one of the things. Some people claim that RFK has kind of updated his view on the polio vaccine, but there are others who say, like, Dr. Peter Hotez, and someone I follow on Twitter, who's a vaccine specialist, has noted that Kennedy has previously stated he believes the polio vaccine killed many, many more people than it saved. So I think that is something that he has said, but I wonder if, is that guy still going around? Here, let's see. During his Senate confirmation hearings, in 2025 for the role of Health and Human Services Secretary, Kennedy addressed concerns about his vaccine stance. He asserted, I support the measles vaccine. I support the polio vaccine. I will do nothing as HHS secretary that makes it difficult or encourages people or discourages people from taking vaccines. So that's, this is what he said. Some people aren't convinced. Some people think he's just playing politics because he's just like blatantly called, have just blanketed, defamed vaccines, like in total, for so much of his career. So it's hard for them to believe that he all of a sudden supports the measles vaccine or supports the polio vaccine. At least we can hold him to those words if there's anyone showing polio vaccine hesitancy or measles vaccine hesitancy and they're an RFK fan. But I don't know.
Agreed. I think it was, I watched part of that confirmation hearing. I think I stopped when they took a short break, and because I had to unscramble my mind.
Yeah.
But there was a report of him speaking publicly, or maybe it was a firm that he was on the board of. That's what it was, that put out onesies. I'm sure you're very aware of what a onesie is by now, aren't you, Travis?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of them said something like unvaxxed and proud, and the other one was like,
Yikes.
Don't take the jab. And he was asked about how he felt about being connected to an organization that would put out merchandise like this, because this
Right.
is what they'd sell. and he evaded the question. He said that he was no longer on the board of that company, but he's still a like number one financial supporter.
Right. So
he just never, he never answered.
Yeah. So Bernie Sanders hammered him on that. So
Yes.
By Children's Health Defense, CHD, an organization Kennedy founded and he chaired, these garments feature slogans like "unvaxxed, unafraid." In response, Kennedy stated that he had resigned from their board. And then just finished by saying, "I'm supportive of vaccines."
I remain unconvinced. I do feel like that. I'm not sure that he was confirmed, but I think he was. And I feel like we're going to see very preventable diseases start taking lives in this country. And I think we've made our point pretty well. I'd like to hear from somebody who disagrees.
John, do you have an anecdote?
Yeah, well, if you're interested, I can give you a minute and a half before I have another engagement, sadly. Maybe I'll come back in like an hour.
Yeah, you can.
I was kind of.
I'm going to be done pretty quickly here, but yeah, what do you got?
The general thing on RFK is a lot of those articles that say he believes Wi-Fi like disrupts the brain-blood barrier. He believes this thing about fluoride, or he believes this thing. From my experience of actually looking into a couple of those examples, I haven't looked into all of them, so I'm not going to bet my life on it. But from the examples that I do look into, he's not saying generally that it is definitively proven that Wi-Fi distributes the blood-brain barrier, and anybody who says otherwise is absolutely wrong. What he's usually saying is, I think there is some evidence for this thing, and that's concerning enough that we should look into it.
Well, that's what I read, right?
Says he believes this could happen. What?
That's what I read. I said he has suggested that Wi-Fi exposure can compromise, but that would mark a guy who's going to piss away money chasing nothing, right?
Maybe.
Oh, maybe that would be a ludicrous way to spend our money. Like, we already know that makes zero sense.
Well, it depends on what the initial evidence is. I haven't looked at it. I mean, I think Wi-Fi is probably one of the more far-flung ideas. I don't think the idea that there's like antigen level differences between races is like totally insane. It seems possible to me. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I don't think the idea that some of our vaccines haven't been tested as thoroughly as he would like is probably true. I don't see and if he's wrong, he's wrong. The opinion that I've always heard on this is that, well, you see, even questioning this, not more than a waste of money, usually what I hear is like, even questioning this or calling it into doubt lowers public trust in the vaccines. And when we are like really sure that he's not going to find anything because we feel like we're sure, it's not worth it to undermine public trust. I've heard that a lot. I've heard that from people. And what I would say to that is that public trust is already gone. It's already gone.
I don't think so at all.
Nobody trusts
at all. I don't think so at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that being more scientifically rigorous and transparent and investigating lots of things is probably the only way you're going to increase scientific trust, and continuing to tell people to trust the government.
People don't know how to do that, John. We have to start with showing people how to do research. We're assuming people know how to do research. They don't know how to do research. We've heard from people today who don't know how to do research. So how to?
Well, I'm not saying that people should do studies. I'm not saying that individual people should do it. I'm saying that the HHS and the FDA should do more studies and be more transparent about them.
Yeah, but
they include null results.
Yeah,
all of the things that RFK said 50 million times.
But
if anybody was interested in listening to the hearing, I'm not sure how many people were actually interested in listening to the hearing, but
But John, like,
go ahead. Sorry.
The idea is that, like, you understand obviously that there are limited resources available to spend on like for instance, like any interesting insights into new cancer treatments that could actually yield some positive results, man, we throw money at that. But like this kind of stuff, like Wi-Fi, the anti-vaxxer stuff with connected to autism and all this other crap, like that stuff has been debunked time and time and time and time again. We're already done with that. We're done with it. And the worry, so, I mean, for me, if I was a taxpayer in the United States, I want someone who's head of the, science advisory board or whatever and they're going to be in a position where they can influence how money is spent. I want money to be spent on things that can actually greatly increase the well-being of my community. And I think this guy is kind of the last guy I would put in a position like that, because he's already demonstrated that despite what his colleagues would tell him is a deeply ignorant reading on a lot of these things he raises questions about, he seems to be unable to take that and upgrade his software. He digs his heels in and demands that it hasn't been thoroughly investigated enough to his satisfaction.
So there's a lot there, and this is why I almost didn't call in, because I hate cutting the conversation short. So I'll just say this. I have a sneaking suspicion that there are a lot of things that the U.S. government has decided to study that are much less worthwhile than, dotting our I's and crossing our T's. And I have a sneaking suspicion that we're going to free up a lot more money in other areas of government because of some certain very public departments. So, I mean, maybe you're right, but to me, I think we can find the money in a lot of places. I don't think that I think that is still useful. But I wish we could talk about it more, but I do have to go.
All right. Nice hearing from you, John.
Maybe if I come back in an hour, we'll break it down.
All right.
Thanks.
Peace. All right. Well, I'm probably going to end this here. Thanks for calling in, Don. Thanks for calling in, Grim, John. You guys, yeah, we reached close to 20,000 views for this live stream. Thank you, everyone who stopped by. I usually create I'm not really releasing the full live streams anymore, because it does affect the algorithm. I'm releasing video highlights, so you guys will probably see some highlights from this live stream. But thanks for everyone who stopped by. Thanks, Robin, Scott. I see you guys in the chat. We'll see you guys next time.